Rational expressions. So before we get into simplifying them, multiplying them, dividing them, adding, subtracting, solving them, what are they? What are rational expressions? A rational expression is a ratio of two polynomial expressions. So basically, a ratio is one way of kind of saying a fraction. So look below. This is a rational expression. So is this one. They look a little bit different, but they are rational expressions. So the first thing we're going to do with these we are going to simplify them. So our steps, we got 3 of them. First one, we want to factor. Remember factoring. We want to factor everything that can be factored, which means that some things might not be factored or factorable. That's a better way of saying that. And then secondly, we will simplify the monomials. What is monomial? You might have forgotten. This is one term. So let me show you an example before we move on. This, you see how it's a number and a variable, but there's nothing added or subtracted to it? This is a monomial. 20x plus 20x to the 6 is a monomial. Neither of these are monomials because they have an added or subtraction component. So then it's more than one term. So finally, in step 3, we will eliminate common binomial factors. And our binomials, these are just what bi means, 2 terms. So monomial, 1 term. Binomial, 2 terms, okay, 1, 2. This one on the bottom is trinomial because there's 3. Tri means 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we're going to factor if it can be factored, then we're going to simplify, and then eliminate. So I have this calculator cheat code that I didn't give you when we were factoring, but I'm going to go ahead and give it to you now, and we'll get there whenever we get to things that can be factored. All right, let's look at this one. We have 2 monomials. That means that we've got 1 term on the top and the bottom of our fraction, and we don't have anything that we can factor. So we can go to simplifying. So we're going to look at our numbers separate from our variables. So remember when we would reduce fractions, that's what we're going to do here since they don't divide in evenly. So 20 into 14, that's going to reduce to 10 over 7. We want this in the simplest terms. That means you really need to reduce your fraction. All right, I don't know if you guys remember from doing this before, but now we need to simplify our variables. We have 6 x's on top and 2 x's on bottom. So one way to do this is to subtract 6 minus 2. That's 4. Since the 6 is on top, that will be x to the 4th on the top of your fraction. If I lost you, what really we're doing is we have 6 x's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 over 2. And we can eliminate those x's. And then what are we left with? 1, 2, 3, 4 x's, and they're on top. So x to the 4th on top. Okay? All right, number 2. We got 6x minus 3 divided by x minus 6. And we want to simplify this. So most of the time when we're doing this, you're going to be able to simplify it. So factor everything that can be factored. Can this be factored? 6x minus 36? Yes, in fact it can, because remember our first rule, our first step to factoring is factoring out the GCF, and between these terms there is a 6 that is common. So if I take 6x divided by that 6, I'm left with x on the inside. I take 36 divided by 6, I'm left with 6 on the inside. Okay, so we got 6 times x to the x minus 6 divided by x minus 6. So that's the first step. Oh, there it is. Factor everything. We've factored everything. Now we want to eliminate the common binomials. Since we have binomials, we're skipping to that. So just like we did with our x's over here, since we got x minus 6 on top and x minus 6 on bottom, those eliminate. And what am I left with here? 6. That's it. All right. Let's look at this example. We got x plus 8 on top, x squared plus 2x minus 48 on bottom. So our first step is to factor anything that can be factored. This top, can that be factored? X plus 8? No. There's no common factor between x and 8. Can the bottom be factored? Well, probably. So this is where this cheat code comes in handy if you have, one, forgotten how to factor our trinomials, or if you just want to do it easy. So we are going to our calculator. Turn this off. And we are pressing menu 331. It says find roots of polynomial. So this is, the roots are the same thing as zeros, which is the same thing as factoring. So we're going to have degree of 2, and we want real. So hit enter, and then you see this pop up. And it's hard to see on my screen. Hope you guys can see it better. This at the top lays out your a x squared plus a x plus a equals 0. That is this form right here. And then it has a1, and a0. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that number and the sign in front of that and put it in each of these places. So whatever's in front of your x squared, put it here. And remember, if there's not a number, it's 1. This is positive 2, and this is negative 48. So just like that. Don't worry, online, I will get you a link to a site that will do this for you as well. Okay, enter, and it gives you negative 8 and 6. So this is the really important part to remember. These are really what you're finding using your calculator for, is to find your zeros. Your factors you have to write with opposite operation. So this is x plus 8, not the minus that it shows, and x minus 6. There we go. All right. So we've got a bunch of binomials, so it's time to eliminate. We've got an x plus 8 on top, x plus 8 on bottom. Those can eliminate, and what are we left with? Remember, there's nothing here that's really a 1 for our fraction, and then we've got x minus 6 on bottom. All right. This last one. This one is going to be the more challenging one, because we have to factor both the top and the bottom can be factored. And the top, if you look at it, we've got 2, 2, and 40. And remember, our first rule of factoring is to factor out the GCF. Well, 2, 2, 40 has a greatest common factor of 2. So I have to factor that out first. Oh, minus 2. Minus 1. Minus 20. I have to factor that out first before I can jump to factoring it. So 8x plus 32. Okay. So if I plug this into my calculator like I just did, remember that 2 still hangs out up front, then I get x plus 4, x minus 5. And then on the bottom, we have to look for greatest common factor between 8x and 32. And in this case, it's 8. And we're left with x plus 4 on the inside of our parentheses. All right, so now we can move to eliminate. We've got an x plus 4 on top and an x plus 4 on bottom. We also need to check out these numbers. Can they reduce? 2 over 8 can reduce to 1 over 4. And what else are we left with? X minus 5. So this is your answer, x minus 5 divided by 4. All right, let me know if you have any questions simplifying. You really need to get simplifying down because when you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, etc., you're going to end up simplifying at the very end.